Welcome to Career Bits, the weekly podcast of the University Career Center at UNC Charlotte. We're back to spotlight another career community, and this week we're going to talk about the technology, data, and analytics career community. So if the idea of working in a cutting-edge and innovative field where you apply technology and analytics skills to solve a number of problems appeals to you, this episode is definitely going to fill you in on some of the finer points of learning more about your options. You're going to hear interviews with Josh Hertel from the School of Data Science at UNC Charlotte, a growing field and one that we're very excited about. You're also going to hear from Betsy Montanez, one of the recruiters for our FDM group, who will talk to you about how they hire students from technology, data, and analytics backgrounds. And then we'll finish up with a conversation with Lori Brazili and Jesse Simonik, two of the career coaches working specifically with the technology, data, and analytics career community. So let's get started. I'd like to welcome into Career Bits now Josh Hertel, the Director of Data Science, the School of Data Science at UNC Charlotte. Josh, thanks for joining us on Career Bits.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Have a chance to chat.
Yeah, this is an exciting venture for the university, and data science is a term that gets thrown around a lot, in the workplace. But what exactly is that, and what does that mean for students interested in the technology field as a career?
Yeah, so I'm gonna start a little bit of a sidebar, and then we'll come back to this because I actually come from a liberal arts background, and so people talk about data science. They look at the STEM field. They figure there are big computers in a room, and there are folks over in the corner coding away. And really, data science is about problem solving. It's about critical thinking. And so what you're looking at are massive and different types of streams of data that you've got to harmonize, try to look for those patterns. So there's an element that really is about it's about pattern analysis. And so the folks who come to us and are successful, and I'm probably getting a little ahead, are folks who really like those kinds of puzzles, who like to take different pieces and try to find a way to make them match to figure out the larger picture.
I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because it truly is an interdisciplinary school and approach. You've got an agreement between computing informatics, the Belk College of Business, Health and Human Services, and liberal arts and sciences. And the whole purpose of the career communities model, obviously, is that the world is built from an interdisciplinary approach. And so talk a little bit about the kind of students that do well to consider an undergraduate degree and maybe even graduate degree in data science.
Yeah. So, and we're seeing part of the reason for that interdisciplinary nature is we are seeing the application of data science across multiple fields. And each field has a little bit of its own domain knowledge that's required to really be able to use it. So there are core skills in computer science and coding and understanding some elements of that. Statistics is another leg of the stool that's really important within data science. You've got to be able to say and show what you have is true, and statistics is really important for that. And then you have to have a passion around a particular area. And so whether that's public policy, or it's business, it's marketing, if it's healthcare, trying to figure out where this crisis is going to go next and who's at risk, that's part of it. It's this three-legged stool in many ways, and that's part of the reason for this larger partnership between the colleges.
So talk a little bit about how the School of Data Science came to be at UNC Charlotte, because it's a very unique story.
Yeah, the School of Data Science was long time coming. There were some folks who really saw the potential of what was happening around data, big data. E. Deng, who was one of the former deans of the College of Computing Informatics, Mirsad Hastakadic, who was also the founding dean of the college, along with Steve Ott and several of the other deans, realized that there was a growing need for people who understood not just programming, but understood data and business and had some communication skills. So this is kind of an interesting element to it. You have to have, I'm going back a little bit to some of your earlier questions, but you have to have that willingness to engage with other folks and have a back and forth conversation. So that realization that there was a crossover between those disciplines and an opportunity to really grow something unique for UNC Charlotte took fire. And frankly, the Chancellor Dubois, who we've had a wonderful run with, and we're going to miss him desperately, really understood that and put the support behind it and the encouragement to make it happen as a program.
Let's talk also about the industry involvement and influence as part of that, because that's another thing that I think is a new front for educational programs is partnering with industry, and particularly the local industry, the fintech and healthcare industry in Charlotte.
Yeah, so right from the start, right out of the blocks, whether it was health informatics and analytics or data science and business analytics or the new undergraduate data science program, we are blessed in the Charlotte region to have very strong companies, and more importantly, companies who see the importance of engagement in their communities and building up resources in the communities. So companies like Lowe's and Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Duke Energy, a dozen others are all part of our advisory boards, and they have pushed us, they have supported us, they have challenged us, as well as providing pathways for our students to get involved and to do hands-on learning. As we develop this new undergraduate and launch this new undergraduate degree in data science this fall, we're going to be looking to them to be bringing real-world problems to our classes for our students to work with and to learn from. So it's been a great partnership. They support annual conferences with us. They support diversity initiatives like our Women in Data Science conference that really looks to broaden the field. It's one of the reasons Charlotte just is a great place to be.
So the program began as graduate programs and now is launching an undergraduate program, as you mentioned. But what kind of backgrounds do people that enter that graduate program come from? I imagine all kinds.
Yes. And I'm sounding I'm feeling a little bit like a broken record, but that is, we have folks who are computer science majors, math majors, business majors, pretty straightforward. But we have sociology, psychology, we have music majors. We have folks who are coming from across the field because, again, there's a creative element to data science and interpretation. And most importantly, I'll bang this drum one more time, it's that critical thinking. There's an ethics element that's really important. It's not just you'll hear our faculty talk to our students about this on a regular basis. It's not just what you can do with data, it's what you should do, and more importantly, what you should not do. There are lines that ethically we should not be crossing. And so that's as important an issue as the technical expertise within the field.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be on the front of everyone's mind as they're paying attention to stories in the news and this and that. We've all read those things, but it's part of our lives now. And every little piece of us is lived and stored into some sort of a, bank of knowledge somewhere, and how to use that. And one of the things I really picked up on that you talked about was just having a real passion for problem solving.
Yeah.
One of the things at the Career Center we talk about is every career in some way or another is problem solving. It's just how you go about doing it. And what is it about the way data scientists go about solving problems that makes it different than some of the other options?
Yeah. So, you talk about the Career Center and some of those critical skills, they're often referred to as soft skills. And in data science, these are huge. There's a story that was told to me by a partner of ours, Blue Cross Blue Shield, one of our board members several years ago. And it stuck with me all these years, where they were trying to solve a problem and they would go to their engineers to say, here's the question we want to answer. And they'd start a conversation and it would stop before it got too far in, because the engineers would push a yellow pad of paper across the table and say, just give us a list of what you want. When you're talking about data science, it's an iterative process and it's a team sport. So you're pulling off the strengths of engineers, you're pulling off the business side of the house, you're pulling off of the domain knowledge. You need people who can stand in the middle and be translational, who can work with those different teams and manage and encourage them to reach their best. So communication skills are really important, and interpersonal management skills are really important for this field. And that's part of what we hear again and again from our business partners. Give us folks who understand how to formulate a question, but also to get a team around that question to go after it and get creative again about that answer. So that's, again, one of those unique aspects of data science that also opens the doors. It opens the doors. It isn't just one college's, one program's, one department's space. It goes across the university. We believe that's going to continue, that we're going to see more colleges joining in and partnering. analytics and data science are behind every corner of the campus. And in business, the opportunities continue to expand, as well as in public service.
Yeah, talk about some of those, because I think it's some of the obvious applications are right there. I mean, people think, okay, I can work for a bank, or I can work for, a hospital organization, or, World Health or something. But what about public service and some of the other maybe not so obvious areas?
Yeah, so, one of the major international initiatives out there is called Smart Cities. And what they're trying to do is to use data to try to understand how cities work, flow, how you lay out streets, where your zoning needs to be able to move to predict where growth is going to happen, and then try to figure out how to get resources to that area. So you don't wind up with places that are missing critical services, whether, it's the fire department or it's social services, it's a new school. It's those kinds of things that seem to find efficiency within the living environment. You have the same issue in terms of energy use, trying to figure out. One of the big initiatives in Charlotte is Envision Charlotte. It's been heavily supported by Duke. Heavy data science program, again, looking how to go back into buildings and provide better efficiency in heating and air conditioning and electrical use, et cetera. And that helps the city because we don't have to build new power generation. It helps the environment because we don't have to build new power generation. But it's part of that constant reinvention process, and data scientists are right in the heart of that sort of thing. The COVID-19 crisis is another one. We've got a team of students working right now who are trying to create a master dashboard to look at some of the predictive models to figure out risk for one of the major financial institutions here in Charlotte. So that's got a dual benefit in which it's helping a business case, absolutely, but it's also going to help us better see where the crisis is moving. And by being able to synthesize several of the great models that are already out there.
I think it's fantastic. It's the things you're talking about there involve disciplines in civil engineering and urban planning and architecture, and but even things like school zoning and politics and city governance and things like that. All of that sort of ties in together, and I think it's neat how data has always been important in all of these things, but we finally put our hands around it in a way and give it in its own discipline, which I think is fascinating and encouraging for the future.
So, and I'll say the next space that I'm really excited to see it grow is that partnership, definitely between the different disciplines. That's great. But really that next generation of data scientists who come in with the back to the ethics issue, how we should be using data. What are the privacy rights? Europe's struggling with this. We're struggling with this. How do you protect their identities and their privacy while at the same time giving people what they need and trying to reduce risk for everyone? That's going to be a really fascinating. That group of leaders, thought leaders, is going to be a fascinating growth area.
Oh, I completely agree. And if students are in the area and are planning to pursue this, or at least partially as part of their degrees, what are some of the things they should be reading? What are some of the places they should go to keep up with the latest in the trends and ethics?
So that's a really good question. In terms of the areas where the thought leaders, they certainly can come to the university and come to datascience.uncc.edu, which is our homepage for the School of Data Science, and we try to link out to a lot of the local conversations that are going on. There are a number of trade organizations that are out there that probably would be of interest if you're looking at healthcare groups like HIMSS, which is Health Information Management. Data Science Central is another kind of thought leader out there that are available to kind of engage in some of these.
Fantastic. On a side note, I would also, if you haven't read much of her stuff, there's a professor out in California. She's a philosophy professor, but her area of expertise is artificial intelligence ethics. And her name's Shannon Valor. I don't know if you've read any of her stuff or read it, but she's really good. She's a good Twitter follow too.
Okay.
But she's, I subscribe to a guy named David McRaney, who writes a lot about sociology and perception and stuff like that. But he interviewed her once for a couple of 3 hours over several shows. It was just really fascinating. It was all around this idea of machine learning and data ethics and all of that. Yeah. So she keeps up on the front of that. That's a neat one to keep up with. Well, Josh, thanks again for joining us on Career Bits. Tell folks how they can follow you and find out more about the School of Data Science at UNC Charlotte.
Well, we'll keep it simple. Just come to our homepage, datascience.uncc.edu. We look forward to connecting, and there's a whole team of folks if you're interested in the undergraduate program or some of the partnerships that we're doing in the community. It's a great place to start and reach out to us. I should mention, one of the other important changes or new pieces of the School of Data Science is the leadership. And we are very pleased to have the new executive director, been there for about a year now, Doug Haig, but he comes to us again with this perception and this understanding of where industry is going after 15, 20 years working in the financial sector as a chief analytics officer. And he is leading us into this next phase for UNC Charlotte and for the region.
Happy to welcome onto Career Bits Betsy Montanez from FDM Group, who's the University Partnerships Manager. Betsy, thanks so much for coming on Career Bits and talking with us today.
Hi, yes, thank you for having me.
So I want to start with just a little bit about FDM Group and kind of where you fit in the technology space.
Yeah, sure. So FDM Group is a UK-based firm with our headquarters here in New York City on Wall Street, but we also have our offices in Charlotte, Reston, and Austin, Texas. And so we are known for our recruit, train, and deploy model. And what that means is we recruit talent, we bring them in, we hire them on as full-time FDM consultants. Then, based on our client needs, we have market-driven training. So we do all the on-the-job training up front. We kind of front-load it so that when you're placed with your client, you're ready to go. You're ready to hit the ground running. And so that model has worked very well in the UK. It's a little newer concept here in the US, but it's been working very well. And we have some major clients like Barclays and Citigroup, Moody's, Fannie Mae. So our FDM consultants are then placed with these clients and get to work on some really neat different projects in risk analysis, all different software development projects and things of that nature.
Outstanding. So I want to talk to you about some of the recruiting efforts that you all have done, because you've had quite a bit of success in the last couple of years recruiting students from UNC Charlotte. And just in general terms, what makes a candidate stand out for both internships and full-time opportunities for you all?
For us, like many other companies, we're always looking for that student who can show that they are successful in their academic careers. And success necessarily doesn't always mean the highest GPA, right? Success could mean what kind of resiliency have you shown, or what obstacles have you gone through to meet the goal of earning your degree. We're also looking for passionate students and articulate students. So I know for students, a lot of times they focus on the meat and potatoes of the resume, the experience. I want to make sure I have the word Python and SQL and all of this. And that's all fantastic, don't get me wrong. But I think sometimes we lose focus on those soft skills. And I know the career offices are always talking about it. And those are very, very important, because when you're interviewing, when you're meeting with FDM, or when you're meeting with your client to be placed, you have to be able to be articulate. You have to be able to show your value in your words, in your interview, right? Yeah. So that's more than just what's on your resume. So I think those soft skills are very important. We're always looking for those as well. In particular for FDM, what makes a candidate stand out for us is passion and aptitude. So unlike a lot of different other organizations, yes, of course, we're looking at your experience on your resume, but we're really looking for that passion and that drive. And we're going to use that to build your career up and really help you break into information technology. So if your resume really isn't heavy on experience, that's okay with the FDM Group. And that's kind of what makes us a little different than other companies, because we really pride ourselves on starting off careers for our candidates. So again, what makes you stand out? Passion, drive, and really, those soft skills that sometimes fall wayside with candidates.
I think that's excellent advice. I want to ask you, though, because resiliency and passion are hard things to quantify in a lot of ways. How can a candidate do that on a resume so that then it spurs you to want to have that conversation with them where they can tell their stories? Because that's the thing we hear a lot from students is, well, I want to be able to show that, but how do I do so in written form? I know how to say it,
Absolutely.
but how do I write it?
Absolutely. So, I mean, COVID is a perfect example of resiliency. When you walk into an interview, you may be asked, how have you handled this situation? And I think this is a really good opportunity to talk about that. And as you mentioned, how do you put that on paper? Well, it's very, what we're going to look for is to see during this COVID period, what did you do with your time? Did you volunteer? Did you take a essential job? How do you do that? And that cover letter, it is crucial because you can list a bullet on your resume as well. But in your cover letter, you can address, right? Cover letter is the initial interview. And you can say on there, hey, my internship opportunity was rescinded during COVID. So as you can see on my resume, I took this opportunity and took a volunteer position where I could share my skills to help XY organization during XY situation. And, so just put it there. Don't be afraid to make that stand out in your cover letter. And again, that resiliency is, hey, my internship was rescinded because of COVID. Do you boo-hoo? Or do you say, I took this as an opportunity too? And that's, I think, how you demonstrate that resiliency. And passion, again, I think volunteer work speaks volumes for passion. And again, kind of like when you were a high school senior and they said, don't just throw stuff on there, focus on one or two avenues. And I think it'll shine through again with that volunteer experience, or it could be a position, a job that you took, where you're showing what you're doing for your community, for yourself, for others. And again, it's very easy to put that in a cover letter. I am a veteran advocate. I'm very passionate about my work. And in every cover letter, I say, I am passionate about working with veterans and helping them transition into careers. I am passionate about working with students. I'm okay saying that in my cover letter because I have the experience on my resume. And hopefully when I get into that interview, I have real stories to back up that passion. So I think that's how you kind of put it on paper.
Yeah, another way too would be to make sure all of that lines up. Like you say, your cover letter serves as sort of your introduction to your resume and also to your LinkedIn profile. So if you put on there that you're passionate like you are about working with veterans, if I go to your LinkedIn profile, I should see evidence of that, correct?
Absolutely. LinkedIn, I'm not going to lie, to me is still a newer concept. But absolutely, it's such an important recruitment tool because it is your professional Facebook page. It is your professional profile. One, we get to see you, which is something that doesn't happen. So if you have video of yourself, media on your LinkedIn of doing whatever it is that you're passionate about, that's awesome. Having recommendations on there is so crucial as well. If you mentored someone, have them put up a couple words there, and to have your peers recommend you as well, I think is very important. And, and make sure you share the love, make sure you give those recommendations back to folks. But absolutely, I think LinkedIn is your living resume, and it's so important to make sure and take advantage of the multimedia on there. Post some pictures, post some videos of you doing what it is that makes you happy, that you want your professional network to know this is what I am passionate about. This is what I'm learning. This is what I'm doing with my time.
You mentioned for resiliency, what a lot of students have done, which is work on small projects, volunteers, things like that. We're starting to see a real rise in the popularity of what we call like micro internships or short-term project engagements. Questions we get from students are around, well, does it look better for me to have one long internship or a bunch of little things? And my contention is it's a little bit of both. It kind of depends on you, but you're in the recruiting space. What does it look like for you?
I think it's always quality. Quality could be quantity. Quality could not be quantity. So I think it's always the quality of it. Did you do a bunch of little things and really get nothing done? Or did you take on a bunch of little things because you wanted various experiences? And I think that's great too. I mean, I really think that's even for us, when we place a consultant with a client, they can work on a long-term project and then we move them on to another project because we want them to build their resume. So if you are doing mini internships, mini volunteer opportunities, that's all fine as well. It's not going to be a hindrance. It's not going to say, oh, they couldn't stick to one project. But I think, again, how you word it, date it and say, saw project to completion. I think that's really important too. Give that project an end date and give the end result of it so we can see, oh, they saw it from A to Z. It was short term. That happens. But they saw it from A to Z before they moved on to their next project.
So focusing on the outcome, or at least listing that is what's important to be able to encapsulate what the experience was.
Absolutely. Yeah. Listing that outcome. What did you gain from that? What did you learn? Yeah.
So as students, let's back up for a minute about students that may just be entering college and they're exploring their options and they're thinking, well, I understand technology is really growing. That's something I'm interested in, but what can I do as a freshman to really get myself prepared for what the next steps will be, which is gaining and compounding experiences through internships and projects and things like that? What would you recommend a first semester student to do if they're considering technology as a career?
Well, I applaud any first semester student that knows what they want to do. I still want to know what I want to do when I grow up. So with that said, I think flexibility is very, very important. So if you want to go into information technology or any kind of career, I wouldn't pigeonhole yourself to one stream. You're good with computers. This is kind of where you want to go. I want to try and experience everything I can in that field, right? So start really, really broad your freshman year. So down by end of sophomore and beginning of junior year, it's kind of like a funnel. You're starting to wean down into some of the things that you may really be interested in. And that because you've tried it. It's very attractive to say, I want to do gaming. And then you go and you try this gaming experience because, hey, you love the back end of it, right? You love playing these games and you start thinking about like what goes into it. So I'm going to be a gamer. I'm going to develop these games. And then you kind of go on this micro internship and you experience it and you're like, I do not like this at all. But you find out while you're doing that there is other things you can do, right? So all these platforms that are out there, somebody developed that, all these different apps and things of that nature, somebody developed that. So maybe that's the direction you go in. And then the other thing too is, kind of going back to this idea of passion, how do you marry passion with information technology? So if you're passionate about a particular subject, how do you use this? How do you go into that industry where what you do can create real change? Are you creating apps for nonprofits that help connect folks to different services? That's very rewarding work. Are you creating information technology programming in the medical field, connecting folks to, doctors now, telehealth, right? All of that was done quickly. We don't go into doctors' offices anymore. So as a freshman, I would just explore, and don't pigeonhole yourself and be flexible and say, yes, I love information technology, but what else do I love? And how can I make this all so I have a career so that when I wake up in the morning, I don't go to work. I go to I go and do this thing that I'm excited about.
So part of that and part of the process for students is selecting their academic path and their major and things. And what we're hearing from more and more employers like you all is, I'm not so much interested in what that degree was, is what you have done with the knowledge base you have. So let's take an example of a student that may be in a non-computer science major. Maybe they're a business major, maybe they're an English major, but they have, they know Python, they know JavaScript, they can do the code part. What's the best way for them to present themselves to employers to show that, hey, look outside the box, I've got experience that you're wanting to?
Absolutely. Cover letter. Your cover letter, you are speaking to the person who's looking at it. And don't be afraid to say, hey, I might not have this computer science degree, but my interest in, Java or SQL and spell it out. It's okay. Be brief, be concise, but actually spell it out. But, on the side, I have done these projects and I'm looking forward to starting my career in this. With FDM, it's a little bit different because we're necessarily, again, not looking for all that experience, but we want to see in that cover letter, I have this interest in, I've tried this project, I've taught myself, I've gone out of my way to learn this, and I'm looking forward to using your careers platform to launch my career in information technology. If you already have the degree, that's great too. You can talk about that, and then what you're looking to learn from this organization, right? Because we're always learning. So again, that cover letter I think is so important. And so speaking of non-traditional science majors, at FDM, we're fortunate we'll hire anybody from any major, any background. I think the most interesting major I'm working with right now is a music student, a doctorate of music, who's going into information technology. And so I thought that was pretty neat. Most people are always looking at that computer science, the engineering and stuff. And so we have this music student, which, it makes sense. Music is math-based. But I thought that was pretty neat. And so I think, again, that flexibility of, you have this major, but look, you've earned your degree from UNC Charlotte. That's important. That degree, regardless of what it's in, is a very important accomplishment from a prestigious institution. Nothing can take that from you. So you can use that to launch pad into any different type of career, because again, no one can take away a degree from you, whatever it's in. So don't ever think, I didn't get a degree in the right major. No, but you still have it, and you've shown resiliency and passion, and you've completed a task from A to Z, and that's what that degree really says about you. So whatever they're in, they're always really important.
Betsy, thank you so much for taking time and talking with us here on Career Bits. Tell folks how they can follow you and keep up with what FDM Group is looking for.
So I am on LinkedIn, and but, honestly, come on in and email me directly. So my email is Betsy, BETSY, .Montanez, MONTANEZ @FDMgroup.com. I welcome direct emails, and we can set you up and chat. I love to talk. I love to mentor. So hopefully we can start your career here at FDM. And if not, if I can give any tidbits of advice from all the years that I've been doing this, I'm more than welcome to share those as well.
Joining me now on Career Bits are Lori Brazili, Assistant Director for the Career Meetup Program and the Career Coach for Technology, Data, and Analytics Career Community. Also on the show, a voice you'll recognize if you've listened to Career Bits, Jesse Simonik, Assistant Director for Career Connections and also a career coach working with technology, data, and analytics students. Glad to have both of you here on Career Bits. So we've heard from a campus rep, we've talked to a recruiter in the field. I want to talk to both of you now about what students should consider if they are thinking about a career in technology fields. What should they be interested in learning about? What kind of problems do they want to solve?
Yeah, so they should be interested in learning about different ways that they can solve technical problems that can help, promote business and industry. And so whether that is in like software development or project development or operations, anything related to data science, those are some of the subgroups that make up the technology, data, and analytics career community.
So Jesse, let me ask you, what should students who are not going into one of the more traditional major paths to do that, like computer science or software engineering, but still want to work in the technology field, what are things that they can do to bolster their resume and just make sure that they're in line with the experiences that they're going to need to be able to be competitive for internships and jobs?
Absolutely. That's a great question. Well, first and foremost, I would definitely recommend that they connect with the technology, data, and analytics career community, regardless if you're in one of the quote unquote traditional majors that might fall into this category, or to your point, Jay, if you're just interested in working in that industry, but maybe in a role in human resources or accounting, finance, communications. There are tons of different employment opportunities within those fields that might not be, again, a computer science background or technology major. So if you join the career community, Lori and I make sure we send out updates in regards to employers that are coming to campus, conversations to learn more about the industry, career paths that you might want to pursue, and also ways to connect and network. So as you're looking for opportunities to build your resume, joining and participating in career meetups, participating in career treks that we have specifically for this community will allow you to engage with employers and better understand maybe additional ways for you to add to your resume in addition to part-time jobs, class projects, and other internships you might have had.
This is for both of you, really, but let's talk a little bit about the skills beyond the tech skills that you'll need to do well in this community. What are things that folks need to do? I guess you call them soft skills sometimes or whatever, but what are other things that technology, data, and analytics students need to know how to do if they're going to be successful in their job search and in their jobs?
Yeah, I can jump in on that one. I think communication skills are probably like the top skill set that students need to have in addition to the technical skill set. So employers are going to want students to be able to talk about their technical projects in a way that you can speak to somebody that has a non-technical background about your project, but then also you can speak to the technical side. So being able to develop and work on your written communication skills and verbal communication skill set specifically is really important in terms of soft skills.
I would also say that honing in on any leadership opportunities that you've had in addition to teamwork are also great soft skills that all employers are looking for in a candidate, but again, especially for folks in the tech, data, and analytics industry. So thinking about your experiences, whether inside the classroom or again, outside, with whether it's a class project or internship, maybe some student organization involvement you've participated in as a student. Those are great ways to build those soft skills within your resume and then also share stories to essentially prove that you have worked on those skill sets and can bring those to the table when you're having a conversation.
Yeah, and you both have mentioned ways that students can network with employers, the things that we do with our virtual meetups or lunch and learns or whatever it might be. What are good ways and good strategies to make sure that if I'm a student participating in that I'm engaging, that I'm not just sitting there absorbing information, but that I'm actively asking questions, stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think kind of what you were saying with, taking notes and asking questions and really engaging with the person that is leading the meetup, if it's an employer or industry professional, and then just kind of going beyond that initial contact point, like following up with the person that led the meetup, for example, connecting with them on LinkedIn and thanking them for their time and maybe seeing if there's a way that you could connect virtually offline for 15 or 20 minutes to learn more, because that's a really good way to get more insight into, that particular company or that particular profession. And it also helps you build your network, which can come in handy when you're trying to search for those jobs and internships.
Laura, you make a great point. And I would also say, think about any of those meetup opportunities or networking events, conversations as an opportunity to help you prepare like you would for an interview. So if you know you are scheduled to attend a career meetup, for example, and you clearly can see who the employer is, take the time to spend 10, 15 minutes doing some review on their website, check them out on LinkedIn so that you're coming prepared to that conversation with, the basic knowledge that you might need to ask some of those specific questions about the roles, about the industry, and again, to really just look prepared. That's going to really be impressive to an employer that you're speaking with.
We also have a number of good student organizations that students aligning in this community can be involved in. What are some that you want to highlight and just make sure people know about?
Yeah, so one new one that actually is getting started at UNC Charlotte is Girls Who Code. And so this is going to be an opportunity for, it's open to all identities. So, people that identify as women or, other identities, but it's going to be a good opportunity for women specifically who are interested in kind of the tech field, just because that's an area where there's some underrepresentation, just to connect and to work on coding skills and get connected with employers that are coming to campus and things like that. that. So that's definitely one. The Association of Computing Machinery is we have a chapter here. We actually have two chapters. We have just kind of the general one, and then we have one specifically for women. So that's kind of the general computer science student organization. And then there are also student orgs for data and analytics. So there's Charlotte Analytics for cybersecurity. There's the 49th Security Division. So there's a lot of different opportunities for you to connect with a student org depending on what kind of function or area within technology, data, and analytics you're interested.
What are some of the things that we've got coming up this fall that we want to make sure that the technology, data, and analytics career community students know that we were going to be offering in the Career Center?
Yeah, well, we'll definitely be doing, focused career meetup topics. So look out for those. The hope is that we'll be able to bring some employers and alumni connections to help lead those meetups. And then not in the fall, but early in the spring, we'll be doing hopefully our Career and Technologies Networking Night, which is an opportunity for students who are trying to learn more about the tech community and just kind of the tech industry to engage with employers that are in that sector and to learn more about career opportunities.
We're also going to be looking into career track opportunities for students who are interested in exploring the tech, data, analytics industries. So keep an eye out for those this fall. They will definitely be in a virtual setting, to be determined for spring semester. But again, all of those events will be advertised on Hire a Niner. And one other thing I just want to throw out there too, another opportunity for you to continue learning, making connections, and also honing your professional resources and skill sets are to connect with Lori and I in a one-on-one virtual career coaching appointment, whether that's this summer or even this fall, again, in a virtual manner.
Yeah, you stole my thunder on that, Jesse. The last thing I was going to ask you is how can students connect with both of you in the office and on LinkedIn?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hire a Niner is how you can set up a meeting, and then feel free. You can always try to find me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to accept your request. And then, of course, you can always visit us in the fall in Atkins 150.
Completely agree. Feel free to try to find us on LinkedIn. I say try. I think it won't be too hard, hopefully. But also, again, look for our email address if you just had a quick question. Our contact information is available on the Career Center website.
So that's going to wrap up our episode spotlighting technology and data and analytics career community. Hope you've enjoyed it. You can follow the Career Center on social media at Niner Careers, and of course stay abreast of all the happenings with us on our website, career.uncc.edu.